Wednesday, the 23rd of April. This is your Frontier opening bell, everyone. Of course, we get the markets to start the show, as always, with the exception of the Egyptian 30 down by roughly 0.75%. The Nigerian market started the week after the long Easter holiday with about 0.5% in the green. The insurance, consumer goods, banking sector lifted the market roughly $5 million in net currency value for the entire transaction day. That puts the Nigeria's NGX index year to date at a positive 1.76%. Big names such as UBA, Jitco, Lafarge, the third largest cement maker in Nigeria, also finished positive. Insurance, Axaman said one of the big cap insurers fell by 1.17%. In Ghana, still in West Africa, the market was up 0.17%. You can see the BRVM very strong, 285.94 for the composite, 1.57% in the green. Move to East Africa, the Kenyan market, the NSE Osha index up by 0.56%. In Uganda, the market was a negative 0.84%. Airtel Uganda, Centum, East African breweries, Kenya Airways fell sharply on Tuesday, which is the first trading day for a number of Frontier African markets after the Easter holiday. So the markets fell very sharply. Dar es Salaam, however, eked at about 1 basis point. In Southern Africa, the JSE was up by 0.5%. Resources lifted the market, and industrials as well about 0.5%. The rand traded around 18.59 to the US dollar, up about 0.5%. Industrial metals and mining segment of the JSE was strong, 1.4%. In Zimbabwe, the index was down 3.48%. Citco, however, shares up by 8.57%. Zimre, which is the insurer, up by 11 basis points. This is just a few markets numbers for you to give you a sense of how we're coming back from the long Easter holiday here on the African continent. Let me push that further to look at some of the biggest headlines, and I'm sure everyone knows this already. The whole story around the President Ruto in China discussing trade, investment, and infrastructure on top of his agenda with President Xi Jinping and the rest of his team. But of course, out of the World Bank IMF spring meetings is the whole news by the IMF releasing World Economic Outlook report saying that Donald Trump's trade war is shaking the global financial system. That came out of that latest report for April that was released at the start of the spring meetings there in Washington. Still in Kenya, the banks are proposing to the central bank that they want to have a single lending rate regime. Of course, that will be anchored on the interbank rate of the central bank itself. That's what the Kenyan Bankers Association are presenting to Dr. Kamal Tuja and the rest of his team at the central bank. BPI France, Zipa, said they've signed a memorandum of understanding that will help to facilitate co-investments by French companies to support export financing from Zanzibar in Tanzania, while the CRDB Bank Foundation says, and Costec said they have a 2.3 billion shillings deal on the table to support startups in Tanzania. Those are some of the headlines out of that particular region. But let's get on to see what's moving the headlines in West Africa. That's a Fitch. It says it's revised the West African Development Bank's outlook to stable. This week, Togo is looking to do a second round of regional bond issuance. That's roughly 20 billion in CFA franc. That will be on April 25 on Friday. That is, we'll get the result of how that comes through. On earnings, Sonatel, that big telco listed on the BRVM in Cote d'Ivoire, reported 10.9% revenue jump in the first quarter ended September. China is looking to invest, according to latest news, in agriculture sector in Liberia. So you've got quite a lot. And of course, you have the first female chairman of Nigerian breweries Breweries held a very small press briefing on Tuesday, unveiling the new chairman with the rest of the team, and spoke about a new vision for that 70-year-old brewer, which, of course, is having the first female in its history, and how the company has been squeezed over the past 2 years on FX front, on full subsidy removal, and a whole lot of problems around retail, raw materials, payment in US dollar terms, part of that coming from outside, the whole backward integration within the Nigerian environment. The first quarter earnings from Nigerian breweries has been really good. The stock moved up on Tuesday to start the new week, 9.94% for Nigerian breweries, because the numbers for first quarter January to March met market expectations, means the shook off the problems of 2023 and 2024. Let me take it further to Southern Africa and UNCTAD for Africa, the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development. Africa says more countries are now going protectionist due to the problem that's taking off from President Trump's war. Good news, however, for South Africa. News from Bloomberg early Wednesday showing that South Africa is planning the trade talks in the next few days. And that is some good news. Capitec in earnings, that bank in South Africa, reporting earnings that beat the street. Headline earnings up by 30%. That's 13.7 billion rand for this year ended February. Final dividend to shareholders will be 44 rand 25 cents in cash to shareholders, and that will take the final dividend for the year for Capitec Bank much higher. Namibia is reporting international stock reserves of about roughly 60 billion Namibian dollars at the end of March, while today President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe will be meeting Alrosa's, the Russia's state-owned company, diamond mining company in Zimbabwe, and that's part of the Russia's reaching out to Zimbabwe in the mining segment. Zambia will be finalizing its bilateral debt revamp deals by September. Remember, Zambia has been on the DSS, the G20 DSS, the IMF DSS 20 debt restructuring deal for the last 3 years or so. In Mozambique, Cahora Bassa hydropower plant says it's going to pay a dividend of over 100 million US dollars. That's about 7.4 billion meticals for its full year ended 2024. A chunk of that will go to the government, who's a key shareholder in the hydropower plant company. That will help Mozambique's government FX financing position. What goes to the government will be around 55 million US dollars or so. Zimbabwe is experiencing a gold boom. Gold prices jumping. We saw the highest yesterday, early Tuesday, when gold prices touched $3,350 an ounce, decelerated a little bit when Donald Trump indicates that he's not likely to sack the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell. Stock markets globally also took that as an indication that Jerome Powell at least will be allowed to finish his term at least over the next 6 months before he's replaced, obviously, by President Trump. And those are some of the headlines in Southern Africa. Let's take it to the north, where Morocco has got a lot in the news. The International Monetary Fund in this latest World Economic Outlook say Morocco will grow about 3.9% this year from initial 3.7% forecast earlier, while Airports 2030 project by Morocco is looking at a roughly $3 billion US dollars aviation program. In the meantime, the Kwazazat solar plant in Morocco has resumed operations after a shutdown for a year long. In Egypt, Africa Varian and IMP of Egypt said they're co-hosting a Hydrogen Africa conference. We suspect that to happen in October. Watch out for that. A key energy sector, hydrogen energy conference to take place. You got folks from across that region and around Africa and around the world attending that key event. Those are some of the headlines we've got for you just to get your midweek markets up and going. I am Boasting If I do enjoy the rest of your day, and that's your Frontier opening bell from here.